Welcome to What Have You, featuring Rachel Jankovic and Rebecca Merkel. This audio is brought to you by Canon Press. Before we get started, I wanted to make sure you knew that a featured guest of What Have You, Nancy Wilson, has a new podcast called Femina. Every Friday, Nancy shares a quick, Bible-saturated devotional that covers all matters of the Christian life. You can find the Femina podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Bekah Merkel.
We're way out of practice,
But
way out of touch.
I will say last week...
I don't think I've seen you in the flesh
No.
for 10 or 12 days.
We did talk about it last week, about how much we needed to do something about this.
Oh, guys, but it's been back to school. It's
Oh,
been,
my word.
everything's
But
been
it's back to
so...
all of it.
I have felt like I needed to be at a different location about every 30 minutes for... Just really,
basically.
Really, it starts to feel excessive. And in a brilliant move last week, I did the move that makes you feel like a complete ninny of all.
What'd you do?
It was one of these days where we were just taking people from everywhere to everywhere for a long time. And we were, at some point, it was more than one of our children had an event to go to. So it was it dribbled on into the evening.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Anyways, I was taking the twins to a pizza party, and it was out in the country. And I was slowing down, at every driveway to see what the address was, because I wasn't sure where I was going. And then as I rolled past one, I realized it was actually this address through another address, and I realized that was the turn I was supposed to take. Well, it's on a gravel road. And begin the, 40-point turn to turn around on the gravel road. Mm-hmm. But I backed the back wheels of the Suburban into the soft shoulder on the side of the road, and just totally lodged the Suburban just... straight across the country road, and right at the bottom of the driveway, where everybody else who was taking their children gets to witness the thing I've done. And there was not going to be... It was kind of an optical illusion because the shoulder was much softer than it looked like it was. And so as soon as the wheel sunk into it, then there's nothing you can do to pull out of that. Was no... We were just digging deeper. And so I'm like, well... This is what I've done now. And then a mother who happened to be also coming down the driveway, because she had already gotten her child there in a more timely manner, who also happened to be the same mother who'd had to wait with Chloe because we were late to pick her up from volleyball the same night. Drove the twins back up to their party while I blocked the road. And it was I have lived in this area for a long time. I should know my way around a gravel road and things to not do with a gravel road. And why did I do that? And what a shame.
How'd you get out?
This is just an embarrassment to all people who grew up in Idaho. And oh man, and everybody slow rolling by me, rolling down their windows and being like, do you already have help? And it was really the mountain people that were, coming by to check. And I was like, yeah, I do. Thank you. And
how were you going to have help?
Oh, because Wendy Sensing was one of the many parents. She was like, Carson has a winch on his truck. He'll come get you out.
You had to wait that long.
Oh, I had to get people that have winches installed on their truck to come get me. It actually wasn't that long, but they live pretty close to there. But it was just
scene.
Yes. And then this huge truck, like a moving truck, comes by, and I'm like, sorry, I'm blocking the road, and they're like, I don't think that they even spoke English, so I had a weird time with them, and then I was like, can you get by? And he was like, yeah. Well, then I held my breath as he goes bombing past. I thought for sure he was going to ditch his moving truck into the ditch because he was going so badly on the side to get around my blockade that I was running.
Oh, the worst.
Mm-hmm. But then they winched me out of it. And I was like, well...
Winched, I think. But anyway, I don't think you had a wench on this truck.
That's an old joke, isn't it?
More of a winch.
The wench versus the winch.
Oh, my word.
Winch
That's
took
amazing.
me out of the road.
Meanwhile, my lifestyle has now been, over the last few weeks, we've been doing soup night. I've done 3 of them now. But because of all the madness with everything, we are doing it at a different location. So I'm packing all the soup and supplies and everything up into my car, driving it down to where I feed the people. And there are more freshmen than ever this year.
I forgot you were moving soup night. I pictured
it's
that.
Real hard. It's not. You know what? It's a total weird
this actually
pain.
explains everything because somebody responded to that Instagram story that you put up.
Okay.
Of you taking all of the food.
Yeah.
And they were like,
Jemima put that up.
who were you feeding? Or what was this? And I was like, probably a faculty dinner because I had forgotten it. But I specifically looked at it and thought to myself, why did Bekah make that much sriracha sauce? And now it's all coming
12
clear.
gallons.
And it's coming clear to me now that was the soup. And it was not the garnish sauce.
No.
Yeah, that's good.
But
I feel
the thing
refreshed
is,
in my knowledge of what you were doing.
Yeah, over the last week, I've had to take dinner for a crowd down to another location 3 times in 1 week. If you have bookended by soup night, and then I did do a faculty dinner in the middle, so it was that, like, load up all the food, try and have it still hot, drive it somewhere else.
Those are the things that you should do if you're ever looking for just kind of a relaxing outing. You should do that. You should load your... Do you see that bird? It's like on a crazy wild ride.
It's sitting on a canola plant and just
blowing.
Blown to bits.
Blowing, but like, it's like that bird is at Silverwood. It's hilarious.
But anyway, the thing that's really funny is it's really something to try and pack it all up and take it to the car. I had to buy a bigger soup pot, so now I have a 12-gallon soup pot.
It's less sloshy.
And it's less sloshy, but one person can't do it. So
you probably get your wheelbarrow.
Yeah, 2 people, 1 on each handle with pot holders because the thing just came off the stove, so it's flaming hot. So you're carrying it between you out to stuff it in the car. So, like that's kind of the lifestyle that I was
Sounds really casual to me.
But you know what's really great, though, is driving like a granny up because you have 12 gallons of hot soup. I didn't have 12 gallons. It was more like probably 8 gallons of hot soup in that pot. So you're driving incredibly slowly, creeping down the road.
I don't think a wetback could fix that problem if you had it. So,
but what I love is pulling into the back door of the building, and there is a big crowd of freshman guys all ready to spring into action and just whip everything out of my car and take it off.
Yeah, that's
and then
good.
We get it set up. And I'm just like, I could really come to rely on that service for the rest of my life. Like, where are they when I'm bringing home groceries?
What's their deal? Why are they slacking off?
Speaking of bringing home groceries, Mom told me to tell you as a tip.
Okay.
Your mixed media tip from last week of paper and plastic. She does plastic over the paper. Like, she opens the paper bag inside.
I've seen her pull this move.
Yeah, me too, but I never thought through why would you do it. And that's so that you can have handles on your bag. Because Winco doesn't have that. And somehow it means that she just does everything in paper bags in the back of her car.
I don't have any. Anyway. I think I'm going to have to go watch us in person. My tip that I'll forget by the time we get to tips.
Sure.
But I just really want to see the world set free from this bondage. You don't have to cook lasagna noodles before you make lasagna.
But you have to encase them in enough liquid that they'll cook in the oven.
But I think that like 80% of the time, people's lasagna is too runny for people in the first place. So
True.
adding extra water that's a bad choice. You want to make sure you have enough sauce that you're not having just a dry blank noodle out there.
Yeah.
But you already need to have enough sauce.
What about chicken lasagna?
I just made it last night without
it.
Yeah, don't even get them wet.
But do you buy the noodles?
Regular noodles. And here's the thing. This is a thing. I prefer the noodle to have a bite to it.
Al dente, yeah.
It's not crunchy, but it's just not at all an overly puffy noodle. But it has more than enough time to cook a noodle when it's in the oven with sauce that whole time.
I've done it without cooking them, but I always was careful to make sure it's totally covered on both sides.
Well, I think I remember in our youth someone telling Mom the secret that if you add a quarter cup of water or something to the sauce, you can just cook the noodles while it goes. But that's just making yourself a runny situation.
You can just use
so
the sauce.
I'm just telling
even
you.
The cheese, even if it's covered in cheese, I just felt
the cheese, but like in chicken lasagna, I use that cottage cheese layer, and I think that cottage cheese releases a lot of liquid when it's cooking. So honestly, the sauce plus that cheese creates more, and plus I put spinach and artichoke hearts in it, so both. I think there's plenty of moisture in there. You don't need anything else. But the bondage of feeling like you needed to boil and strain the lasagna noodles may be keeping you from making lasagna, which can be a real haphazard, make it happen thing. You can make that work.
Okay, I'm going to bring back a kind of tip if you disregard Rachel's tip. So here's my peeve with boiling the lasagna noodles is you boil them, you throw them in the strainer, you go off to do other parts, and it
just a particle like a plywood bondage of noodles.
It turns into a thwack of noodles that is stuck together permanently in the bottom of the strainer.
Unless you oil the stuff.
No. Here's what I do if I'm boiling the noodles.
But don't, because my tip is to...
This is why I said if you disregard Rachel, here's what you do. So you boil the noodles, dump them in the strainer, and then while they are still hot, I just pull them out and drape them around the side of the colander to sit there.
Bekah, this is infinitely too many shenanigans.
No, but it's way easier. It's way easier than trying to disentangle a wad of noodles later.
But it's from one bad choice to a worse one. Here's why this is a problem for me.
But like, what if you're going to
I make lasagna for Sabbath, which I did this last Sabbath.
Yeah,
I make 6 lasagnas. Didn't I make 6? I made 6. 6 big pans. 6 big tinfoil pans of lasagna. And if you were to be trying to pre-boil all that, what kind of a wretched time would you have?
If you were going to do it, you could borrow my 12-gallon pot.
I have. Okay, further tips that I have, and this is one that you probably really need.
Okay, give it to me. Lay it on me.
Get yourself the propane burner turkey fryer.
I used to have one of those.
I know. I used to borrow it from you, which is how I fell in love with the concept. But that's not what happened to it. I didn't lose it.
It all becomes
we
clear.
We bought a new one. So I have this little porch, and we call it the smoking porch at my house, but it's near the kitchen. Okay. And we don't smoke, but we call it that. And whenever we make a lot of pasta, I boil my big soup pot out on the porch for the pasta. Oh. I just do it out there, and we drain it out there. It's easier it actually doesn't really matter. It's just that usually I have other stuff on the stove too. So like if I have the sauce or whatever, sometimes I just don't want it all in there. The other reason I do that is because that burner can churn out a heat in a lickety-splickety time period. So if you want to boil an ungodly amount of salted water for your pasta at a higher speed than sometime in the next 40 minutes I'll see a bubble. That's not what I'm looking for. No. So when you light that thing and you hear it like with the propane flame, you feel empowered. You feel like we're going to boil this now. We're boiling it. Yeah.
Well, I did make a disgusting amount of soup last night, and I was very happy that we had leftovers because the previous week with my 8-gallon pot,
she just yanked her necklace off of her own neck.
Look, I broke it. But the thing is when I was doing that last week, I filled the pot pretty full. And at the end of the day, everybody got 1 cup of soup and nobody got a second at all. Like, I was scraping out the bottom to get the last cup of soup out. So I definitely had to upgrade. And so then this week I made more soup, enough that people could have seconds, and we had leftovers. So I just felt much better.
Yeah.
You know, like, you feel like you didn't send everyone away empty-handed. They could have had more if they wanted.
I've realized something about my own food life lately, which is that I think my favorite kind of cooking is the kind that is like my philosophy on, if you're really behind on life, just get ahead on Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite kind of cooking is the kind that makes me feel like I'm actually ahead on
top
something.
of something?
Yes. And I don't mind making up improv-y odd meals when I feel like I'm ahead of schedule doing that. But if I feel like I'm 5 minutes behind when everyone needed to eat dinner, I really just, I mean, it doesn't, there's no joy there in barely squeaking in with a meal when people needed it before then already.
Sure. Yeah.
But, like, I made chicken lasagna last night, but with never having put chicken lasagna on a menu plan ever, it was like I realized I had some shredded chicken that I put in chicken broth in the fridge, and I was like, what should I do with that? And I was like, I have cottage cheese, and I have spinach, and I have mozzarella in the freezer, so it was like that, the joy of having, like, making a chicken lasagna where I would not have enjoyed myself if I'd been, like, self-commit to making a chicken lasagna and go to the store and get all the stuff you need.
Yeah, I could
If that
see
makes sense. But that's a kind of, There's something that I keep wanting to talk to you about. It's been so long since we've been here. Have you heard tell of the feminist comics?
No.
Can you give me your phone for a minute, since we're recording on my phone? I'm going to Google it up because I think it's called the, let's see. It's just really funny. But so many people sent it to me right now because I think it was being viral right now. Right. But it's also, it's a book that is the mental load, a feminist comic. And it makes sense that it's feminist because the whole thing is like...
So squeaky?
Oh my word. Like, unite petty humans of the world and fuss with us about... And to document the state of our life, I'm going to draw pictures of slouchy, sad people in ugly environments while they complain about their lives. You know, like, that's pretty much what it is.
Sounds like a treat.
So there's a lot of this. Let's see, okay. Oh, it's so bad. It's really, it feels like we're gonna blow away up here.
I know, it's windy.
Okay. It's all about basically how women do everything and think of everything, and men do nothing and think of nothing.
No doubt.
Yeah, especially because there's this whole situation here that opens up with, back when I was in my first job, a colleague invited me over for dinner. When I got there, she was trying to feed her kids while preparing our meal. Have a seat, grab a drink, I'll be right there. Like, after
this sounds like a great comic already. The setup,
so funny,
real witty,
really pithy and
concise.
Good. And she's struggling with children at the whatever. And it says, after a while, the pot started to overflow, and she's talking with a child while the husband and the guest are sitting with wine glasses on the couch, and everything spilled onto the floor. And the husband stands up and apparently accusingly says, "What a disaster! What did you do?" And the wife from the kitchen with the children and the overflowed pot says, "What do you mean, what did I do? I did everything! That's what I did." And then he says, "But you should have asked. I would have helped." And it's a scene that must seem familiar to many new parents, and I thought it said a lot about how things get organized at that stage in our lives. When a man expects his partner to ask him to do things, he's viewing her as the manager of household chores. Oh, shoot. So it's
This is
up
a comic
to her.
in what possible way?
It's feminist. That's why this is their best sense of humor.
Moses is here.
Here, you can... Yes, what you need, buddy? Okay. Just wait a minute. I'll be in a minute, okay?
Well, I'm just going to say nothing about this is winsome or neat.
No, it's not. But it goes on and on forever, documenting these situations about... this is what feminists call the mental load. The mental load means always having to remember.
You know, I'm glad feminists have called it that.
Yeah, and they're remembering things like, it's this picture of women who are like trying to spend time together, but they keep thinking about things like, remember that you have to add cotton buds to the shopping list. Remember, what a mental load. The Q-tip mental load. Remember that we should have paid the caretaker. And remember that the baby needs new pants. Or remember, I mean,
But I have a question, though, for these
it's
people.
permanent and exhausting work.
Who?
And it's invisible.
But if she doesn't have to remember the cotton buds, then he has to remember the cotton buds. Someone somewhere is going to have the mental load of the cotton buds.
Or fancy this. Maybe the Q-tips will slip through the cracks and no one will order them. But this is...
I just mean that, like...
So, here you go. We have a group of women dishing together about he always puts the washing machine, puts on the washing machine, but never hangs the washing out to dry. Someone else is saying the sheets could be standing stiff before he thought to change them.
I would just like to say...
he's never cooked a single meal for the baby.
You know what? That bastard.
My feeling is that if you find yourself at that soiree of an evening, get out. Like if we're going around the room, just imagine how much lighter your mental load could be if you were not documenting what your husband is doing wrong. The real mental load is this tally about everything. And it says, for me, the fact that this load exists becomes obvious when I decide to take care of a simple chore. So it's sort of like this load, but seriously, I'm not joking you. This is a whole new how to build yourself a mental load of bitterness and tedium.
Well, but also, what's it? I've never seen
and it tells some
so
really
ham-handedly preachy.
I know, but then it tells some incredible stories that are meant to be the real crowning achievement of this. Like this one. It's like when my friend Jay, on her way to bed, asked her husband, "Can you take the baby's bottle out of the dishwasher when it's done?" And getting up for the first nightly feed, found the dishwasher open with just the bottle on the counter and everything else still inside. See?
Again,
it's the only thing.
Bastard.
It's the only legitimate. And here we have some really, really bad like, here's a terrible comic of a man saying to his wife, "Let me know if you need help." What? How dare he? Yeah. That assumes that he doesn't have to think about it. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then it goes back to say how we've been taught this by basically getting dolls when we were children instead of Legos or whatever happened. And that's
oh, my word.
Why we're all bearing this incredible mental load all the time. And I was going to say,
haven't we all turned into the biggest weenies in history?
Monster town weenies. Plus, one of the things that's really interesting to me is that when I actually try to get into this feeling for a minute and be like, am I really struggling with a mental load? Sometimes, for sure, the super fritz is upon us. But I'll tell you a mental load that I don't want to take on, and that's the one that my husband actually is carrying all the time.
Oh, my word.
Like, to make it as though the housekeeping mental load is the only mental load there is.
No.
When actually what he has on his mind a lot are much different, more complex problems. Like he has different, it's not like he's going to work to not use his mind.
Here's the problem though. Those feminist comics are presupposing that she has just as much work-related load as he does. But then she has the full additional extra bit. Which is why the interesting division of labor idea. It's the old
What if one of us made
trusty,
What if one of us made our home a mental priority, and
the
one of
other
us
one
used
went
our
out?
mental
Yeah.
energies in somewhere else?
I know,
Yeah, it's true.
I know.
The whole thing is really just beyond bossy and shrill, though.
It's just
Like the idea of, not only did my friend's husband one time only take the bottle out of the dishwasher, but I have immortalized that way that he wronged her in a comic, in an ugly comic, for the whole world to try to learn a serious.
Here's what I find a little
lesson
bit
from.
reassuring about that, though. And that is that, you know how sometimes we can get a little embarrassed about Christian art, maybe not achieving subtlety, creativity.
This one is being all the hot topic in the world right now. This amazing book, amazing.
That's a book.
It's a whole.
It's a book of these comics?
Bekah, a whole book of a dwindling fuss about how nobody knows how hard it is. I felt like the best part about this would be, like, sometimes it's hard to be a woman.
Or combo that with nobody knows the trouble I've seen.
Nobody knows. Yeah, The Mental Load of Feminist Comic is a book.
That's a book.
It's a book you can
What
treat yourself.
a treat.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's just really, this is a comic book about the gender wars of household chores.
Oh, my land.
I think we should all just say, why don't you do something else with your life at this point? Do something else. But I will say that it's not hard for women to fall into this.
No.
No,
it might be good.
Even this might be like one of those things that would be real healthy to read as reductio.
It might be a good thing to keep around the house just
Hold
for
on.
when you get grouchy.
Go eat an apple, and we're going to go to Chloe's meet really soon, okay? Love ya.
But I mean, like, if you had it around, it might be a reminder to you whenever you started to feel that
Does
way.
this look too much like your life? Then...
Yep. Something is wrong.
Okay. Speaking of mental loads, I'm trying to podcast, but Moses is just expecting me to answer his questions. I like how today Moses wore, I think, one of Shad's undershirts, which was not visible until by the time I pick him up and the undershirt's coming out of the sleeves.
Yeah. And the neck and the hem.
All the places. Cute. The undershirt is bigger by far than the polo. What is it, Bibs?
No, he's going to the other door.
Oh, I'm jumping the gun here.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, what I was going to say is that it is kind of like, I used to look at a blog sometimes when I felt myself teetering on the agitated side about the mess. Because there was a blog that was like a full reductio on my worst attitudes. It was a woman who was like, and then I decided one day, why do I have to clean up after my children? And so I threw away everything of theirs that I didn't care to see. And it does sort of boggle your mind with like, wow, like man. You do know that there will be consequences of the way you are. Like, there's going to be some fruit, and it is not going to be the fruit
it's going to
of
be
good, it's going to be the fruit of the devil. You are planting those fruits. And that is not the one that we want.
No, we do not.
Yeah, but it was always real sobering because you read this blog of someone being like, and just like that, I'm a much happier person. And it was a very like tell-all because you too could be having a better life. But it was always like, if you simply made your children sit in a playpen for 7 hours every day, you could have less cleaning up to do. And you're like, something about that, it's real good to see it out there in the black and the white and be like, wow.
I suppose that if it turns out that the last time you and your friends sat around with a glass of wine, if there was a lot of talk about how much work you do with the dishwashers that nobody helps with, it might be good to have a run through the feminist comics and just look at yourself.
I think you want to double check that you're not vulnerable to it first. I think you might be vulnerable if you have already been doing that. You might be in the mood to roll your eyes more. Like, maybe you wouldn't see the joke in the feminist comic.
True, but I think that these are little petty grudges we can all slip into when we don't notice ourselves. It's sort of like when you accidentally glance in the mirror and find out what a bad face you're making.
Oh, yeah.
It's just...
I think I only ever see myself in the mirror looking far more alert than I look to people most of the time.
Oh, yeah, because you, tend to open your eyes wide?
Yeah, because you, turn to the mirror and you're
Let's put on some sparkle.
You look alive when you look in the mirror, but when you're looking out at other people, it's a real far more of... Well, it's whatever look it is that accentuates the bags under your eyes. Not that I'm trying
the mental
to do
load.
that. The mental
Basically,
load. I let that wear.
Load.
Yeah, the mental load is really out and about.
Yeah, and the thing is, there is a mental load. There is. And I just feel like, you know what else?
What else?
Welcome to Earth.
I mean, do you have work?
Of course there's a mental load.
Then there's a mental load.
And I feel like it's a weird ideal to think that you are entitled to a world
what if we could just go without it?
Load.
Yeah. What if we could go without me needing to use my brain?
Yeah. Or what if we could just go without me ever experiencing anything unpleasant?
I actually think that's a big part of our... there were times when people understood that life was harder.
Right.
And I think we're at a time where we actually think the natural status should be
I think
leisure.
Know what it is? I think what happened is we believe Instagram.
Maybe.
We think that
we think anyone's having that. Yeah.
Other people are out there living a well-lit
or getting money without
life.
Any work.
And it's funny how much we participate in this problem because it's not like we don't all get the same ads about the filter package we could use to make our own photos look like that. Or here's one that will get rid of all of your imperfections in your skin with a quick, swish of your finger swipe. You can put a new filter on there.
I keep getting ads for ones that are trying to show you the same thing from different angles, like how you can learn your better selfie taking.
Did we already talk about? Did I tell you about the one that was? You could put a 6-pack abs on anybody.
Oh,
it's like with this easy filter, you can slap a 6-pack on yourself, with no effort. And then there was another one that was it just kept going up and down her face like a little sweep
magic,
down,
yeah.
And suddenly it's a cover model.
My
from,
word,
Vogue, and then you sweep it up, and she looks like a normal
homely housewife with a mental load.
Down.
Put a filter on it.
We all know actually about those filters, and yet we believe them too. We genuinely think other people are living in a beautiful haze of wonderful times.
Well, I am.
Yeah,
I live in a non-stop beautiful haze.
She yawns.
Yeah, as I yawn. I'm not sure I've ever done a podcast where I don't yawn on it.
No, but
it's
I just
awkward.
mean clearly it's nothing but well-rested.
Yeah, no.
Well-rested.
That's all we do. That's all we do.
Well-stretched.
And I never would be on day 3 of trying to mop my kitchen. That would never happen.
No.
Yeah, no. But since I have to be somewhere every 7 or 8 minutes, I never get further than you do barely gesture at I put a few more things into the dishwasher is what happened.
Right.
But then you got here and you're like, we have to do a podcast. So,
yeah.
And then as soon as we're done with the podcast, I have to go to Chloe's cross-country meet. So really, I'm not pulling it off in any successful way.
I'm going to go home and I'm going to stare at my soup night mess that all came in from the car last night.
What are you making for dinner tonight?
But it hasn't. I don't know yet because I had to use up all my own personal chicken on the soup because...
Do you want to make Buddha bowls and use some of our pork? We have some leftover pulled pork. That's what I'm doing tonight. anyways, is I cooked some black beans. I have rice, black beans, and like,
Nice. That sounds good.
it'll be pretty low key.
Yeah, I have a pre-mixed bottle of sriracha sauce all ready to go. I should do bootables. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of chicken in my fridge, and then when I ordered my food for soup night,
and now she hath not.
I know. I ordered it for soup night, and when I went to pick it up, they were like, "Well, surprise, we don't have any chicken." It's like, what? It's like, you don't understand. I need 15 pounds of chicken, like right now.
I need it now.
I know. And so
One of your options is not running out of chicken.
I went home and I used my own chicken, but it was not quite 15. It was more like 10 pounds. So our soup was not quite as chicken laden
Meaty
as
as
it
you
was, but as it should have been. But
Yeah.
anyway, well, I'm glad that there are some feminists out there who are speaking for us all.
Well, because I think the
know.
only thing that could be more fun than us, like,
A
devoting.
spontaneous fuss.
Well, I was thinking, devote yourself to your career first.
Always.
And then after you've gotten somewhere in your career, when you, in an emergency style, realize that you actually only have a few minutes where you could probably have a baby,
Right.
then you have a baby. But then you resent it real hard.
Mhm.
Every part of that, all the affiliated requirements of having had a baby will be more things for you to keep hold of in your mind and carry around with you. So really the only thing that could be more fun than that would be to not do that at all. Like, it would be more fun.
No, I was going to say, like, what would be more fun than to treasure it up and turn it into a
So what I mean.
long, tedious
Comic of
graphic
people in
novel.
schleppy clothes fussing about their menfolk. I just feel tired of it. I feel
Yeah.
I feel tired of it, but also really it makes me feel weary for people who are trying to tabulate everything like that.
Yeah. Well,
Someone else has sent me a video of some woman with an accent. I don't know, but explaining how we've been conditioned from birth to try to be worthy by serving other people.
Oh my word.
And so it's been a journey for myself, but I've finally gotten to the point where I can say honestly, the most important thing to me is myself. And I say it, and even now I still struggle with feeling like people will judge me for that.
It's like,
And I was like, do you
might
think
be the law of God written
that's
on
your
heart?
conscience pricking you? Because to say things like, the one and only thing that I prioritize is moi.
It's sort of like, the Princess Bride, like, mostly dead. Like, your conscience is mostly dead.
But
not
I keep
all the way
doing
dead.
inspirational videos like this in the hope that someday I'll be able to just agree with myself freely. But I can't yet, but I want you
It's
to.
like a selfish monster that I am.
It's horrifying. It really is
Well,
horrifying.
see, here's the thing. Like, when you're talking about the sort of bleak, sauce, tedious that life looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I think often of a story that my mother-in-law told us years ago. She was a kindergarten teacher for 45 years or something. And this is probably someone who's off in the business world doing quite well. But she said that during prayer time, and I'm sure that prayer requests from the kindergartners, you would be raking
Deluxe,
stuff in
yeah.
that would be hilarious. But anyway, raised his hand for prayer. And
I affirm that because I TA'd in preschool, and I affirm that we canceled prayer time. Prayer time had to be, the kibosh had to get put on the prayer time.
Well, she said he raised his hand. He's like, when I do this, and he grabs his chest and pinches it and twists it really hard. And he goes, when I do this, it hurts. And she's like, well, stop doing that.
No, I need prayer. I need prayer for this.
Like, that's what these women are doing. When I do this, it hurts.
When I stick my fingers up my nose, I jack them way up there. It hurts. And I don't thrive. I don't thrive in this situation. Well, try a new world where you don't do that. It would be amazing. Oh my word, that's so good.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
when I TA'd in preschool, prayer time got canceled, but I loved that Jan used to tell everyone, the parents, she would be like, here's the deal starting school. I won't believe anything that your child says about you if you won't believe what they tell you about me. And I found this to be quite the case because the prayer time was really off the chain. But none of the other preschoolers thought it was. It was just up to the teachers to be horrified. It was the teachers like I don't think you should share that.
Maybe we won't talk about.
Their preschool was rich for a lot of stuff like this, but I remember a kid coming to me like, teacher, and I'm like, what? And he's like, hold out your hand, and I put out my hand, and he just drops this just sogged out sock in my hand, like dripping, like water's running through my fingers level of soggy sock. And I am like, what is this? And he's like, it's my sock. And I said, well, why is this wet? And he said, well, I put it in the puddle. And I like pull his pants up and see that yes, he has taken his shoes off, removed one sock, dipped it in a puddle, and then brought it to me.
This honestly sounds like the feminist comic.
It does. It's just like, what should we do now? Now that I have done this terrible situation. Anyways, it's just not. I mean, of course, I think we want to be clear that of course there are times when you really do need a different kind of help, or you do need
of course the
more
mental load is a real thing.
Yeah, and maybe you need to actually ask your husband to participate differently in something, or ask him how can we do this, or what can we're not trying to belittle the reality of the problem. It's what we work on our whole lives long, so we understand that. It's just that the reality is almost always we could be living a much more fun life if we would just get out of our own.
If we'd cheer up, ye saints of God.
Yeah, if we would just get past it. Like, there are ways that you can also say, you know what's dumb about this mental load? I don't need to carry around resentment. I don't need to carry around bitterness or worry or fear. Like, there are so many things that are part of the mental load that they're talking about that are sin.
Well, I think that's the real key, because I think that the real mental load that's very evident there is a whole lot of old, stale, moldy bitterness built up petty grudges against your husband.
And the only reason you could think that the sudden thought that you should get Q-tips is something that's heavy.
No.
Is if you feel like, and I'm the only one who ever thinks of the Q-tips. And if I don't do it, nobody will.
And then they'll feel sad.
And if I quit buying the
Q-tips.
In other words, if it passes through your mind, I need to grab some Q-tips. There's no particular heft to that thought that's going to bring you down.
No.
But if it is loaded up with all of its friends in a train of resentment, it absolutely is going to drive you into a total miserable grave.
Totally.
I mean, like, it's no way to live.
No. And so I think that plenty of the mental load that is implicit in that is sin that could be confessed, put away, and walked away from. And then you can assemble your Q-tip grocery list in
peace.
In walking with
and
the Lord.
And maybe even in the joy of the Lord.
Joy of the Lord.
Yeah. And you'd be like, I have a thing I need to do.
Yeah.
It's getting the Q-tips.
Q-tips.
Yeah.
Also, I might need to unload the dishwasher.
I should turn over the laundry. I should have turned over the laundry last night. There doesn't have to be the weight of the world upon it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So there's that. I will say, actually, that's a way that's a good trigger, a good check in your own mind is when you're tagging big things onto little things that it's your heart that needs to be taken care of. Because if you find yourself, it's almost like if you're watching a movie and the music starts soaring when something is happening, so you know that the big things are going to happen. It's that moment of like, and I need to turn over the laundry because like, if you're having that kind of a moment, it's a good time to be like, actually, the problem here is not the laundry. The problem here is something else that needs to probably be sorted out.
And that metaphor works because if you've ever tried to watch a movie with the volume off, many of those cues do not translate because you don't know that it's a scary
you didn't
scene.
know that this was a particularly creepy walk down an alley.
No, it just looked like
if it had been a cheerful violin, you would not have thought it was.
They were whistling. But when you hear the, ominous creep in the back, then you know how you're supposed to feel about it. And there are plenty of times in your own approach to your day where you could just turn the soundtrack off, and you could let it
change the music,
not as laden with doom or anger.
Sometimes I feel like if I really was hoping for a fruitful day, like I was planning to get a lot done, that the music builds through the day as I'm not getting to the things that I meant to get to, and that there is a time when you talk about turning it off. There is a time when I'm like, it's time to just plan to work on it tomorrow. Yeah. Like, it's actually time to just be like, so that didn't work out today. Like, today did not pan out as I had hoped. Yep. So, there's that.
Yep. And it's sort of like, and God gave you that, and then your job is to thank Him for it. Mm-hmm.
And to press on. And to walk in the good works that He gave you to walk in, which sometimes... the most challenging ones is to not do the thing that you wanted to have gotten done, but to do the things that God brought into your day that wasn't your plan.
Right.
Where you're like, I was going to honor God by cleaning the bathrooms, and then so-and-so had to puke in the night. That it's like, well, the Lord prepared that good work for you. Right. And it's not your to-do list. That was... Right. The Lord doesn't necessarily harmonize with our to-do list.
I feel like you did an Instagram post about this maybe lately or something, or maybe we just talked about it, but oftentimes it's the things that we want to do that we feel like God will be honored by.
Yeah, instead of the thing that actually...
Instead of what He sent your way.
Yeah, you're like, that can't be it. That can't be what you wanted, Lord. It's like, not what I planned.
No.
It's the wanting to offer God what you want to offer rather than what He's asking of you. Yeah. And usually, because what He's asking of us is to lay down our lives, it's often going to be in some unexpected direction. It's not like you plan it and do it. The moment comes to you.
He sends us curveballs a lot.
And you're like, all right, there's that. This is this moment. Yeah. All right, well, I have to go. I have to go to a cross-country meet.
Ooh, have fun with your cross-country meet.
I know, I do love a cross-country meet. They're so fun. But I have to go, or else I'll miss it. Well, until next time, and you can try lasagna 2 ways before and report back, but my way is so much easier that I don't stand by Bekah's suggestion.
Well, you might need a boiled noodle sometime, and when you do it my way. There. How's that?
I'm willing to compromise on that. It's just that I'm not going to boil lasagna noodle anymore.
Need one.
I have cut ties with boiling lasagna noodles. All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.